Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at how you can find both commitment and marriage using astrology. So we're going to be doing another birth chart deep dive today. However, before we do get started, definitely make sure that you give this video a like if you like it. Also make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to of course click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have added the Pisces merchandise to my merchandise Teespring store. So if you're interested in any of those pieces there, I will provide a link in the description box below, so definitely be sure to check that out. Okay, so with all of those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Okay, so in this video, I am going to be sharing where you can locate commitment, so specifically relationship commitment and marriage within the birth chart. But in another video, I will be sharing when you might enter into a committed relationship or when you might get married. Now, of course, this is my own analysis, but definitely feel free to add to the discussion in the comment section below. So let's get into this. The first house that I want to bring your attention towards when it comes to commitment and marriage is the 7th house. And this is because the 7th house is commonly known as, yes, the house of marriage within astrology, but basically it's associated with a mutually committed relationship or a mutual agreeable. So there's a mutual agreement between two people traditionally within a relationship. Then again, given today, this could of course extend to 2 or more people, but the whole important, well, the most basic thing to look at is this whole mutual agreement, this mutual commitment. So this whole we're on the same page dynamic. So whereas the 5th house is associated with romantic love and with dating, and it's more to do with fun within a relationship, the 7th house, it takes the relationship to the next level where there is sharing and there's giving. So there's this sharing, receiving dynamic going on, or where there's conversations of a potential future with someone, or where there's that, well, what are we? That question comes into play. Sometimes you might think, I'd much rather prefer it if we dated for a while before making any decisions to go further. But then at other times, maybe you might say, yes, okay, I'm ready for this more committed type of relationship. So let's give it a shot. So I guess in a way, the 7th house pertains to making things more official. However, that's not to say that the romantic side of things associated with the 5th house, that disappears. It's merely about taking the next step. Now, for more information all about romance and dating within the birth chart, then definitely be sure to check out my How to Find Love and Romance video. But when it comes to the 7th house, it's about entering into a union with another. So when it comes to the sign that rules your 7th house, that sign is going to give you some insight into the type of partner that you might be attracted to when it comes to being in a relationship. It's going to show you qualities and attributes that you consciously or unconsciously seek out within your one-on-one relationships. And it's going to represent the type of partner or companion that you wish to enter into a unionship with. But of course, also keep in mind planets within the 7th house, because those planets are going to give you more of an insight too. Naturally, it is this same unionship that can result in you marrying the person that you're with. Now, of course, I understand that not everybody gets married, nor does everybody want to get married, but it's still the 7th house area that looks at marriage. It looks at more commitment within a relationship. Then again, it can also look at divorce. It can also look at separation. So it's important to look at everything going on in your 7th house. So like I said, looking at the 7th house ruler along with the location of the ruler within your chart, as well as again looking at those planets in the 7th house along with aspects. Not to mention, okay, progressions, transits, solar returns, synastry, and so on. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break things down to give you more of an understanding. So let's address the 7th house ruler here. This point within your birth chart, it is known as the descendant or the DC, and it sits opposite to the ascendant or the AC. So let's say that you have a Gemini ascendant with a Sagittarius descendant. Well, you might be attracted to a partner who is open-minded, philosophical, who is wise and positive with a good sense of humor. And the type of union that you may wish to develop with this person is one based on freedom, expansion, exploration, discovery, adventure. And the conditions of your relationship may be limitless with the quest for knowledge together. You might love traveling with this person and just being overwhelmed with interesting opportunities that keep you excited and engaged. But then let's say that you have Cancer on the ascendant with Capricorn on the descendant. You might be attracted to a partner who is organized, who is disciplined, self-sufficient, ambitious, somebody who is older or more mature, or they might be younger but still they're mature for their age. The type of union that you may wish to develop with this person is one based on respect, integrity, commitment, and structure. And the conditions of your relationship may be formal and more practical. You might love planning a future with this individual, or you might like how steady this person makes you feel, how grounded they keep you. Now, these are merely examples and things can play out in many different ways, but what's also good to keep in mind, so it's good to look at the synastry. So does someone else's planets sit within your 7th house, or maybe they're AC, DC, MC, IC, maybe these angles sit within your 7th house. So I'm going to give you an example between me and my partner's chart according to the Placidus system. Basically, my Pisces descendant sits in his 4th house, and his 7th house ruler, which is Venus, because he has a Taurus descendant. Yeah, Venus makes a conjunction to my midheaven. But then let's say you have Scorpio on the descendant, then people with Scorpio planets, they are going to activate your 7th house. And likewise, people with a Scorpio IC, DC, AC, MC, they're also going to activate your 7th house. And with this, you might either feel a pull towards them or away from them. You might really like them or you might dislike them. It all really depends on what they stir up within you. And the same applies really to any other 7th house signs, keeping in mind that the 7th house in astrology, it is associated with our shadow, it's associated with open enemies as well. But for more information there into this, then I have made a video titled How to Find Your Enemies and How to Find Your Shadow using astrology, so looking more into the birth chart. But in a nutshell, it's other people that can trigger us and they can awaken qualities that lie unconscious within us. So just to give you a quick example here, let's say you have Aquarius on the ascendant with Leo on the descendant. Once in a relationship with another person, they might in turn bring out qualities of yourself that are romantic, warm, good-hearted, expressive, But this unionship might also bring out qualities within you that are egotistic, prideful, overbearing, arrogant. And due to these reasons, you and them might not see eye to eye. One person might think that the other is being an attention seeker, whilst the other thinks their partner is being judgmental and cold and kind of harsh. But then likewise, one partner may think that the relationship is just all for show, without any real depth, without any real substance. Or it might be that you yourself, you may not be emotionally available within the relationship. So I suppose this is why it's also good to remember that the 7th house can also address separations and divorces, because just as our one-on-one relationships can be peaceful and cooperative, they can also turn into a battlefield where we become at war with another person. Just as they can be balanced and harmonious, they can also become unbalanced and disharmonious. Like I said, it's also good to consider planets in your 7th house when it comes to commitment and marriage. I mean, if you have a 7th house stellium or a cluster of planets in the 7th, then the story can change drastically. Or if your 7th house ruler is a part of a stellium, again, the story can play out very differently in comparison to someone who doesn't really have this within their chart. So if you do have a stellium in the 7th house, it very well may be suggested that you find it difficult to make a decision over who or what you want. Perhaps there are many options available to you when it comes to relationships, or it might be that just so many different events play out within your one-on-one relationships, resulting in indecision and resulting in uncertainty. Then again, perhaps the planets in your 7th house, perhaps they represent different qualities that you seek out within a partner, or they symbolize a number of different things when it comes to marriage. So let's say you have Mars, Saturn, and Mercury all located within your 7th house. Maybe you seek out a partner who is bold and tough and sturdy, someone who can make a decision and stick to it, someone who is very assertive, someone who knows what they want and are willing to work for it with a focus, with a very concentrated mindset. But then let's say you have Venus and Neptune and Moon all within the 7th house. Perhaps there's a high level of devotion when it comes to marriage, where you seek to truly merge with another person. There's so much love and emotional support between you and your marriage partner, but there may also be misunderstandings and a bit of confusion at times too. But essentially, unconditional love and empathy seem to be at the very core of the marriage. Now also remember here to locate the planet or planets of the sign that rules your 7th house. So for me, for example, I have Pisces on the descendant, so I'm going to be locating both Neptune and Jupiter. But then maybe you're somebody who has Aquarius on the descendant, you're going to be locating both Uranus and Saturn. Or perhaps you're someone with Gemini on the descendant, you're going to locate Mercury. But then by locating Mercury, maybe you have Mercury in Libra. Yes, you might be attracted to a partner who is witty and amusing and quick-minded and really curious. You might love learning new things about your partner, and you might enjoy engaging in a lot of intellectually stimulating conversations. But you might also prefer it if there's a give and take dynamic between you and your partner. You might prefer to make the conversations that you have diplomatic and fair, where both parties can talk and listen in order to really hear where the other person is coming from. But then let's say for another example, maybe you have Virgo on the descendant. Again, you're locating Mercury. And with this, maybe you have Mercury in Scorpio. Yes, you might be attracted to a partner who is discreet and health conscious and hygienic. You might love problem solving and attending to your daily routines with your partner, but you might also prefer it if there's intellectual passion and intimacy between the two of you. You might prefer to go really deep into conversations with your partner and for there to be trust between the two of you, where you know your partner will keep their word and vice versa. Or you might prefer it if there's a bond over work, such as your partner having a genuine interest or curiosity towards what you do for a living. Now also remember here, folks, aspects to the 7th house, along with aspects to the planet that rules your 7th house. But the last thing I want to touch on when it comes to the 7th house here is the location of Venus. Venus, of course, being the traditional ruler of the 7th house within astrology. Your Venus placement is going to give you insight into your one-on-one relationships. It's going to show you how you share or how you show love, along with how you receive love. I suppose in a way it can show you your love language, along with what you value within a relationship, with what you value when it comes to love. Now, this love does not just have to be romantic love, like the 5th house, like the sun energy. It can also be love that we show towards our friends or our family, our neighbors, our community, along with the type of love that we show towards ourselves. Basically, Venus represents love overall, along with how we create peace and harmony and beauty within our environment, as well as how we earn money too. Therefore, your Venus placement, it is going to show you how you settle disagreements within a relationship, how you stop yourself from fighting within your relationships, how you play fair, how you cooperate, how you compromise, how you decorate your home as well, how you dress yourself, how you do your makeup, how you beautify yourself, how you earn money, so that the money that you bring into your relationships, the list can go on and on when it comes to Venus. But it's good to keep these things in mind when looking at the 7th house in association with commitment and marriage. Because, for example, if you're not very good at diffusing conflict, you might struggle, okay? You might struggle in a marriage. Or if you do not wish to cooperate, you might have difficulty keeping a partner. But then just as much, if you're always pandering towards your partner, or if you're always being passive, or if you're never standing up for yourself and you're being a major people pleaser, again, things may become difficult to sustain in terms of marriage and relationships. But then likewise, if you're having a hard time paying your bills, so bringing money into the relationship, you and your partner, you may suffer. Or if you're being overly concerned towards your appearance, or if you're continuously living beyond your means, then perhaps again your relationships can suffer. Let's say, for example, you have Venus conjunct Jupiter in the chart. I mean, this can suggest, yes, great luck and fortune when it comes to marriage, but it can also suggest the overindulgence. It can suggest greed at times, being quite gluttonous. Though, I have an interesting theory when it comes to the 7th house in marriage. Could it be suggested that the 7th house and the ruler of the 7th signifies the type of wedding you'll have? Maybe this part depends on synastry more so, where you're taking both charts into consideration, but it's just a thought. So I'm going to give you some fun examples to play around with here. Let's say you have Pisces on the 7th or Neptune in the 7th house. Maybe you want or will have a fairy tale wedding, or the wedding of your dreams. Or if you have Aquarius on the 7th or Uranus in the 7th, maybe you want or will have an unconventional wedding, or a wedding that's not very mainstream. Or maybe if you have Aries in the 7th or Mars there in the 7th, maybe you'll want or will have an action-packed wedding, or maybe you get married on the whim. Sort of a really quick decision, very impulsive. But then maybe you have Taurus in the 7th or Venus in the 7th. Perhaps you want more of a traditional wedding, or a wedding that is more simple but still filled with plenty of good food, good quality food, music and pleasure. Though speaking of Venus, did you know that Venus Well, Venus is said to represent the wife within a man's chart, and then Jupiter is said to represent the husband within a woman's chart. Now, this is a theory that I've seen floating around the internet. There's some good videos about it on YouTube, but I want to explore this theory today because I think there may be some truth to it. So with this, just a quick heads up, okay? If you're interested in being with a man, then you're going to be looking for Jupiter. Or if you're interested in being with a woman, then you're going to be looking for Venus. So like I said, Venus will represent the wife and Jupiter will represent the husband. So let's say you're someone who is seeking out a wife and you have Venus in Gemini. It could be suggested that you'll marry a wife who doesn't know when to shut up or who always has a comeback for everything. Maybe you'll marry a wife who is always in her head, someone who's very curious, who is highly communicative, someone who's also childlike and youthful and really witty. But then let's say you're someone who is seeking out a wife and you have Venus in Leo. Then perhaps you will marry a wife who is sassy and fun and playful, someone who's quite flirty, someone who can be ruthless and quite competitive and really energetic. She might be all about luxury and just being treated like royalty. And she might also be fiercely loyal and self-assured. But on the other side of this, let's say that you're someone who's seeking a husband and you have Jupiter in Libra. It could be suggested that you'll marry a husband who is charming and poetic, a man who knows how to sweep you off your feet and shower you with love and romance, someone who is just conscious of their appearance and who can come up with different options and alternatives to really bring into the relationship. But then let's say you have Jupiter in Virgo, so you're somebody who is interested in seeking out a husband and you've got Jupiter in Virgo. Could be suggested that you'll marry a husband who is hygienic and clean, someone who can be observant and analytical, but yet at times they can also be nitpicky and quite critical. Also a husband who can worry sometimes over things that go wrong, or a man who puts great thought into the little things, someone who is hands-on and practical and hardworking, or someone who reminds you to take care of yourself. Just somebody who is always trying to help you as much as they can, as much as he can. Now, it's also important to remember aspects, like I said, as well as house positions, along with synastry. But let's say then with this that maybe your partner's Jupiter or Venus falls into your 7th house in terms of synastry, right? Your partner's Jupiter or Venus falls into your 7th. This may be a big marriage indicator. Or maybe your Venus or your Jupiter falls into your partner's 4th house. Again, another marriage indicator. Or maybe your Venus or Jupiter hits off one of your partner's planets or vice versa. Again, this could be a potentiality towards marriage. Though another important rule, or an important note rather, is the position of your 7th house ruler in your partner's chart, because this can provide indication into themes that occur within the marriage between the two of you. So looking specifically at synastry here, let's say that you have a Taurus descendant and your partner's Capricorn Venus sits in your 2nd house. Then maybe there are themes here surrounding money and materials within the relationship or within the marriage. Maybe your partner is always willing to support you financially and wants to plan a secure and stable life with you. Ultimately, it's good to locate both Venus and Jupiter in the birth chart and in the synastry chart for more insight into marriage and commitment. After all, Venus and Libra energy is connected with contracts and agreements, and it's also associated with the lower courts. And then Jupiter and Sagittarius energy is connected with the legal systems. It's connected with law and also the higher courts. Though another key factor to consider is Saturn in this as well, because Saturn is associated with the government and it's associated with the law in this respect. Saturn looks at authority, it looks at solidity, boundaries, reliability. It can be viewed as a pretty binding energy, and so it certainly plays its role when it comes to marriage and commitment. And all legal disagreements must be dealt with between each other, possibly through the lower courts and the higher courts. But it's those legal structures that are set in place by those in positions of power, by those in positions of authority. Though the main area that I want to discuss, of course, is commitment in association with Saturn energy. Because think of it like this. What if you're married and your partner cheats? Or what if they steal money from you? Or what if your partner suddenly dies? These are all things that can threaten commitment. They can basically threaten the stability. They can threaten the foundation of the relationship or the marriage itself. So for example, maybe you have a very challenging aspected Saturn and it sits in your partner's 7th house. This might be an indication of delays or obstacles, possibly an indication of separation or divorce, or maybe you have a challenging aspected Saturn that sits in your partner's 6th house. This might suggest a lack of following through when it comes to daily tasks, which may be really infuriating for you. But then let's even take the challenging aspected Saturn out of the picture for a moment and just focus on Saturn as a whole, okay? Maybe your Saturn falls into your partner's 3rd house. With this, could be suggested that you might wear your partner down mentally sometimes, but you might also be a great listener. You may always be willing to sort out problems with steady communication. Basically, there's commitment when it comes to being verbally honest and working through things verbally. But then let's say, for example, that your Saturn falls into your partner's 4th house. You might be a very steady rock for your partner within the home. You might provide much practical support and care, but you might also come on very strong with responsibilities and tasks. But ultimately, there's commitment there when it comes to setting up a home or creating a family together. So the last example I want to get into is, well, let's say that your Saturn falls into your partner's 8th house. Well, this could be suggested that you might be very structured when it comes to sex and intimacy. There might always be a plan of action when it comes to how close you get, but yet there might not be as much of that emotional intimacy or vulnerability even. And you might also be very much in control when it comes to managing the accounts. The two of you managing the accounts that the two of you share together. Or you might be very hands-on and practical there. Essentially, however, there's a commitment when it comes to the things that you share and own together. They're saying, as I do mention the 8th house here, let's just discuss the 8th house for one quick moment. Now, this house is activated once we're married or when we join accounts with our partner, with another, because it's associated with shared resources and money, which can be a risky business, okay? And the reason for why I say this is because divorces are not cheap. Not going to sugarcoat it here. Divorces are not cheap, nor are they fun and enjoyable, I'm sure. Divorces can take a lot from us emotionally and financially, and they can leave us feeling very lonely and regretful. They can bring up many difficult emotions and they can impact those around us in monstrous ways too. Likewise, losses after a breakup, they can be very hard to deal with as well. So yeah, there can be a lot of grieving that can come from divorces and separations and loss. And so in this respect, it's also a good shout to look into that 8th house area for more information into commitment and marriage. Because you see, for some people, maybe they have very well aspected 7th houses and then they get married, but then they have a lot of very difficult aspected 8th houses. And so for them, things can be very tough, things can be very challenging. But then on the other hand, maybe for some people, they have very challenging 7th houses and they spend so much time overcoming these challenges within their one-on-one relationships, and then eventually they get married and then they have more harmonious aspected 8th houses and then things feel more at ease. Though of course, naturally, these houses can play out in many different ways. And I also want to say that if these houses are filled with challenging aspects, this does not definitively mean you'll never get married or that you'll get a divorce. Remember, challenging aspects can help us grow, they can help us learn, and besides, harmonious aspects also, they can come with their downsides too. And like I mentioned earlier, we also got to remember progressions and transits to consider. Basically meaning, guys, that things are always changing when it comes to astrology. So the last and final placement that I want to address in today's video, which is the most interesting part I think, is your Juno placement. Now, Juno is an asteroid in astrology and Juno signifies marriage and commitment. So looking at our desire to unify or come together with another. Looking at our desire to commit ourselves to another through the act of marriage or for the long haul. And there's a deeper, more profound level of commitment when it comes to Juno. There's a great deal of loyalty too, as Juno is associated with seeking to make things right within our marriage relationships, within our committed relationships. There's a desire to work things out and to keep things going. You know how in the marriage vows it says, "Till death do us part"? Yeah, imagine Juno symbolizing this very line, because that's the type of energy associated with Juno. Sure, Venus and Saturn, they are also connected with commitment and marriage as previously discussed, but Juno is like, I'm in this until either of us die, or until the very end. Yeah, it's that powerful. Though I suppose you could say that the 8th house gives a bit of a nod to this outlook as well, but I think Juno is more about deliberately committing oneself to another. Now, that's not to say that we should, because at times things may become far too difficult. And realistically speaking, sometimes it's not within our best interest to remain committed to a relationship that is not healthy in the slightest, or that just isn't working. It's not working. Therefore, maybe it could be suggested that heavier or harder aspects to Juno, maybe they point towards this whole notion of staying in partnerships that simply are not working, or that simply are not good for us. Or maybe more challenging aspects to Juno can look at issues or challenges to overcome within our partnerships. Or maybe they point towards our fears of commitment, or towards our fears of abandonment even. Maybe there's some difficulty, for example, with trust. You know, if you've got Juno square Pluto there. Or maybe another example, there's some difficulty with letting down our walls to let love in, which may be associated with Juno square Venus. Or another example here, maybe if you've got Juno square Neptune, perhaps there's issues surrounding forgiveness. There's issues surrounding giving our partner far too many chances and kind of getting lost in that. So I hope you can see what I mean when it comes to the commitment side of things. because for some of us, we might really struggle with commitment, or for others of us, we might commit ourselves fairly quickly without thinking things through. Or for some of us, we might betray the one that we were once committed to, such as through lying or infidelity. Or for others of us, we might commit ourselves to another who is just not deserving of our commitment. Though on the other hand, like I said, Juno is also about loyalty and deep commitment and being able to work things out. So therefore, your Juno placement can show you how you remain loyal to the one you're committed to. It can show you how you remain loyal to the one that you marry. It can signify your desire to make things right and your desire to continue the relationship on. How you essentially wish to keep it going. Now, what I've done is I've included a little Juno calculator in the description box. So it's a free calculator, and full credit goes to the individual who made that site. But yeah, you can find a Juno calculator down below if you would like to find out your Juno sign. But some examples, because I mean, why not? Let's go for some examples here. Let's say you have Juno in Cancer. You might be very loyal towards your partner, especially emotionally loyal. And you might care for and look after your partner as a way to show your commitment, or as a way to show that you are in it, you know, that you're in it for the long haul. Or you might take out a marriage where family is at the heart of the union. Maybe it's very, very important to you that you and your partner are on the same page when it comes to home and family. But then let's say you have Juno in Leo. You might actually take a lot of pride in your ability to be committed, in your ability to commit yourself to your partner. But if your loyalty is ever questioned, you will take this very personally. It will feel like a blow to your ego. Or if your partner ever doubts your loyalty, or if your expressions of love are ever denied, you might, again, take this very personally. It'll be like a blow to your ego. And you might focus much of your attention and much of your admiration on your partner as a way to show your loyalty towards them. You might seek out a marriage that's fun and playful, a marriage that really keeps the romance alive, that's comprised of spontaneous sex and plenty of leisure time together. Again though, it's good to remember aspects to Juno and also remember synastry. So where is your partner's Juno located within your chart, and vice versa. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my really long video all about how you can find both commitment and marriage using astrology. Now, if you happen to have any opinions, any thoughts that you would like to add to the discussion, then certainly feel free in the comment section down below, and also just let me know what you thought of the video today. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then definitely make sure that you click that subscribe button and give this video a like, remember. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!